Hello, it is Tuesday. You can see an update on this rebar project. Try to get better lighting. So there is coverage on enough of the rebar to keep it in place. And there's just a couple holes there and there where I might need a little bit of lath to help fill the gap. But I was able to take out the fence post pounder and it's still holding up there. I'll take that clamp out probably tomorrow, but it's got a good bit of mortar all anchoring it in. And I've only got a half bag left of mortar, but I used up all of the big pieces of lath and extended the tunnel one more piece of lath here, which gets it completely covering the cat tunnel. So I got I used the last two tent poles from that trashed tent. So I've got those to help shape the arch, and then I just got first half bag of mortar on, and I'll use the rest of the mortar on this arch section and get as much coverage as I can. So that's after another half bag of mortar. Got a good bit of coverage, but still a good bit left. But some of that doesn't have a lot of reinforcement, so it's weak spots, and so giving time for this last coat to cure before advancing will help with the structural shape of it. So it's Thursday maybe? Got another batch of mortar. This should be the last batch of mortar. And got to do a little bit there. And today, this tunnel arch here, which I'm thinking more and more is going to be a sauna in here. I've got somewhat of a plan. It's going to be tight and different, but I think it'll work. So I'm going to try to finish this, getting coverage on this lath today. Everywhere except for this little box around the raspberry plant bush. And get some more on this wall and that section there to connect all the rocks. So what this is really doing is making a solid mortar connection from the garage to this original earthship structure. So whereas previously the entry hall had a connection to the earthship structure, now this whole arch is creating a long bond between the two. So it's a big structural aspect. And I'll get to it. And then also down here, out front of the garage, where the rebar is reinforcing the arch underneath, the few gaps that remained, I mostly filled with lath, so that bridges the gap between the rebar and the mortar structure. And then I'll be able to add mortar to that and then end up plastering all that. And the idea is to get enough mortar around the rebar so that it's held in place compressively, if that makes sense. So I'm going to add to those as well to try to cover up all that rebar. So after the second bag of mortar, there is at least some coverage on all the gaps where the lath was, and then over here as well. So now everything except for the very peak, I don't want to take that clamp out yet, but all that rebar is mortared into place. And then over here, got coverage on the entire arch, minus this hole right here, which I figure is actually going to be good to have this hole as like an emergency drain overflow, just in case that gets totally clogged by ice if it's not being maintained. And the arch isn't perfect. But also, that's just like the first coat. It'll get, the shape of it will get improved with future coats. And then just doing more to bond the structures together, both there and up here, and then deal with runoff. You can see lots of raspberries there. So yeah, that got filled and this got filled. So the main arch segment of that is now complete. I'll just have to wait for it to dry to get to the inside of it, and then just do a little bit more mortar over this tire wall here to really tie this into that tire wall section so that it's all really combined. It's like the Admiral, the contiguous stone structure is growing one mortar application at a time. This is Sammy. She was born last year. I incubated her. And of the 3 chicks that hatched, she's the only survivor. Spot, her sister, died this year, but not before giving birth to, sitting on a whole bunch of eggs, and 5 of those are still alive. There's Buttercup, the surviving rooster of that clutch. I think it's a clutch. And then the 4 other girls are over there. There's Vanessa, and then there's Wisdom, Snow, and Hawk is over there somewhere. Here's Pishna, pretty kitty. And all of the chickies. Where'd all the chickies go? They were just over here. They disappeared. But there's 9 of them, and they're all doing well. I just fed them some breakfast cereals, so everyone's eating their cereals. Here's Grace. Good girl. And, we'll go find the chickies. I see them. They went all the way over to the coop, which they've been staying in full time now with the older chickens, and then the 5 younger ones from this year, older than these chicks, but the 5 of Spots who survived, they're still roosting in the tree. But before long, we're gonna have to bring them into the coop as well. But they're being super independent. And here's the 9 cute chickies. He's super independent and can tell who the roosters are now. So there's Speedy. She's a beautiful girl. And Orwell is a boy, so not Orwellia. Dahlia is a boy, so that's Dale. And then Bumble is also a boy. And then the 3 younger ones, I can't quite tell yet. But everyone's doing super good. Today, I'm going to do something over here because there's some critters who've been making noises in the night behind that EPDM. So I'm going to have to do some critter protection, and I might do a little bit of mortar up there. This is one of the solar arrays, so there's 400 watts there. There's another 300 watts up above the greenhouse over a layer in front of the visor. And then the main array is over on the shipping container. But I just wanted to give you a little shot of the chickens, because this week there's not a whole lot of, there's Bumble. There's not a whole lot of project work. And the last like 3 or 4 days I haven't really done too much, but I'm gonna do a little bit of mortar today, but nothing, no real big projects, but just getting ready for the winterizing, and doing some rodent mitigation practices. Hi, Jody. There's Coco. You good girl. And that's Orwell. Ooh, Orwell wants to jump on my shoulder, it looks like. Oh, shoot. He was about to. Oh, he's on my shoulder. Hey, Orwell. Good boy. Oh, sorry. Got 2 on the shoulder. Speedy and Orwell. Coco's climbing. And who's this cutie here? This is 6. That's 6 right there. Pretty girl. She made it out. Hey, don't be eating no foam over there, Verona. You know better. That atrocious foam bottle thing might get some mortar today. Actually, I should foam it, and then maybe I'll mortar it if the foam cures. It's starting to get pretty cold, though, so there's not a lot of time left for mortar, and it's not going to cure very well. Sammy's looking at us like, what is going on over here with the chickens on the shoulder and everything? Coco's like, I want to get up there. 6 is like, I'm just going to jump on his head. And here's Dale. Alright, that's all for now. So what happened with this wall is that one time it was straight, and I just was going to use foam to make a wall out of bottles. And then when I left, the thing sagged. So I came back and it was like this, and I was going to take it apart. So what I'm going to do is just add more junk to it. So I've got all this junk pieces of foam and bottles and stuff, so I'm going to build it out to relatively even. And then I'll end up mortaring over it. I don't know if I'll have time today, though, but I'm going to try to get it all done today to get one batch of mortar on. So using up the rest of that can of foam and all of that waste foam scraps, the side of it was filled out more, and all that, this is all trash being utilized with the addition of some spray foam. And now I'm going to make some mortar and just try to get something to stick. I won't get good coverage at all, but just to get something to stick. And then the second coat can connect those somethings that stick tomorrow. And I think I'm going to mortar this wall too. These are all spray can foams over the years. And instead of just like landfilling them, that became like a panel, and then it's all connected with foam. So that was kind of what I was trying to do here, but with not, here I had uniform foam things and I put them really close together, and here is all just random stuff. But this one also leaned out because you got to go really slow with this or build supports because the foam is just volatile for a while. So the mortar I add on might even just fall off because the foam's not fully cured, but I'm hoping that I can get some to stick on that, and then I might be able to get some pretty good coverage on this. Also, because the bottoms of those cans are rusted, the mortar will stick a lot better than previously when it's all smooth. So here's after one bag of mortar, which is roughly a $10 investment. Plus a bit of time, but got pretty good coverage on that whole side and got pretty good coverage on this side. And like I thought, it was real easy to I'm forgetting the right word. I'm trying not to say smother, but over here I had to just throw it on. I couldn't. Man, I'm totally blanking on what the word is where you just apply it by hand and smear it, right. I was able to smear it on the right because it had a good enough, a solid enough surface, and it has the enough to stick to. Whereas on the left there was a different condition, so I just had to throw it at it. But there's enough there so that when probably tomorrow I'll be able to smear some on there, and then I'll have to throw it into more of the gaps to work on getting that smooth. And eventually, when that's all done, it will be somewhat of a structural wall to prevent this tire wall from leaning in, which it can't really do anyways, but it might even prevent it from leaning out if there's a good enough bond between the mortar and the tire walls there. This is just some Mylar over a tire wall, which helps to reflect a little bit of the light into the coop and makes it a little extra warm here when the sun's out. And then that'll be really nice to smear over for a second coat tomorrow. Then over here in the tunnel, this is another bag of mortar, which is applied to cover up the tires and then help bond the rock wall that was built with stacking rocks on the side to the floor, to the arch, and to the back tire wall, and then kind of wrap around it to also address the water runoff here, and connect it to the far side of the tire wall, because this tire wall leans in a little bit, so it's getting the mortar up underneath the areas where it's leaning in towards me. So that'll support everything and also be a good counterweight for all of that. But I'm going to end up adding at least one more bag into here probably tomorrow. Over here, just continuing to sculpt the shape of this to continue to make it smooth with a pretty thick mortar. It can be pretty easy to just fill in the gaps and then work one layer at a time to smooth it out. And at some point do another coat along that whole line of rebar. But it does have coverage with mortar all the way around. And then this reinforcement here, which is in alignment with that other reinforcement, which I added there, has three coats on it now. And at some point I will get to framing in a wood section here, but I haven't finalized the plans other than just putting those little corner things in there, which I'll end up mortaring in, kind of aesthetic, but they could be hangers for something too, and they should complement the wood shape that's going to go in there. And then finally, what I'm going to do here in the entry hall is mix up one more bag and add another coat onto this, which helps to support the roof and prevent the whole thing from leaning to the right, which it doesn't want to do anyways, but it'll just make it more secure. And then I'm going to add some more mortar on the right side of these two columns, which will similarly help with the weight, because this whole thing, this is the high point, and that end is the low point. It's not all even. The facade up top is even, but in here it all slopes downward, which is why those steps go down. So just by the nature of the weight of it, adding the reinforcement on the bright side of these two columns where the arch meets the tires will help with strength and weight distribution to resist that gravitational pull that way. So bag number 3 for the day. Got at least a really thin coat over the insulation panel so that the second coat will be able to stick real well. And good coat all the way up to the top, connecting the rock wall to the tire wall, to the sidewall, to the reinforcing the connection point between the pole and the arches there. And then on this side, got this whole sidewall with lath covered up, which is real thick down here and is meant to help support that wood, though how much it's doing that I'm not quite sure. But yeah, adding more to the right side, which will help all of this structural integrity. And then over here as well, I'm getting some all over the right side here. So 3 bags, 1 day, $30, and a good bit of progress today, Sunday. It's the chickies' first night sleeping outside of their heater. They don't want to stay in there anymore. They want to be up top like all the other chickens get up top. So Monday I used up the rest of the mortar available. So here's the second coat on this section, and got pretty good coverage, and then a lot better coverage on that section as well, which both will help keep the critters out, but they both need, this one will need probably 1 or 2 more, and that one will need several more coats to get it totally covered, but it's a good start. Second coat over here, got really good coverage over that whole insulation panel area, and then which is not really structural at this point because it's too thin, but it's nice to get that covered up. And then this part by the windows is structural, and that has extra strength and looking good. And then another coat over here, continuing to kind of pack out the the areas in between the tires. So I kind of smeared it, and then you can see a couple of circles where that's where I threw it on. So the smearing connects well, but you can only get so much width before it slumps. So throwing it on can get extra material into that area. So smear and then throw. And then got a whole another coat over there. So it's really connecting all this pretty well. So this is the final video of the week for Tuesday. Got this rebar thing all mortared in all the way up to the top. 3 layers over there. About to start on another project. But that'll be for next week. Thanks for tuning in.